Hello, my name's Dave Craybill. I'm still sporting my COVID hairstyle. It's going to be different next week. I have an appointment tomorrow. So, with IHemp Michigan, IHemp Michigan's mission is to educate, inform, and promote the research, development, and cultivation of industrial hemp here in Michigan. IHemp advocates for wellness in people and the planet through hemp, and it begins with the farmer. Today we have my partner in hemp crime here, Blaine Bechtold, and Mike Brennan from MITechNews. Mike, you have any news for us?
Yeah, a little bit. It's actually one of my other publications is the Michigan Marijuana Report, and we have a story in there today that the Marijuana Regulatory Agency's social equity team is going to be having a online session that you can participate on, just like in the Zoom session, on July 1st at 10 a.m. So for those folks that want to find out more about what's happening with that particular social equity program, you'll get a chance to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, as it were, the MRA, and be able to ask questions and one more use of Zoom. I mean, this is the new way to communicate these days, right? Not necessarily Zoom, but certainly online, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. So that was my main thing. And then let's turn it over to Blaine. Now, I'm going to get the cookie recipe sooner or later there, Blaine. So.
Yeah, well, you're going to love them when you make them. And the fudge, you got to do the fudge. It's just too simple and too good. So.
Okay.
Well, a little bit of news we can share to start with here. I'm going to want to talk about the Farm Service Agency, and remember that you don't have to certify this year according under the pilot program, but next year you will need to certify. So if you haven't done that, I would suggest you certify this year. Plus, if there's any programs that may become available through USDA assistance programs, like the one they're talking about adding the hemp into the CFAF program, you're going to want to have that documentation there that you were hemp farming and how much you were doing. That just helps when you get approval and try to get approved for the program. So, again, pretty simple process. Let's take a little bit of paperwork if you have not done that before. So give them a call and get through that process this year. I highly recommend that you do that certification. Plus, FSA is hiring some part-time work, which usually can lead into full-time work eventually. So if anyone's looking for a job, this is a great place. You can contact your local FSA office. You can also go on to USDAjobs.gov. You can find it that way as well. But I would say contact the office, talk to them. They can get you the right paperwork to be able to do that. We were asked to be on a podcast this last week with MDART, and as soon as we get the information for that, we'll get it out. I was able to be on that, so some great information we shared with MDART, and they were able to share some information on the recent report that they came out with. If you haven't seen that, it'd be interesting to review that report, see the numbers on it. That gives us some hard facts of what really happened last year. How many acres, how many growers. It's surprising how small the acres were for a lot of it, acre or less for most people. So good to know that information. There is continued work going on behind the scenes as far as with the plastic industry and also with the livestock. I'll share some more of that a little later at the end of the show. But things are moving ahead as far as research goes with that as well. And just a little shout out for next week's show. We're going to have Sarah Hinckley on from Barn Owl Drone Services. Interesting topic she's going to be sharing with all about the services that they do, and that they actually can take a drone and they can actually find the males that are out there growing and be able to pull those males out. So real interesting going to be on that for sure. Excited to hear what she has, and plus other services she has, and some other great news to share. A little bit more talk on the carbon credit thing. National Farmers Union, who's one of our business members, I get their newsletters, and this week the U.S. Senate Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry hearing on the Growing Climate Solutions Act. So that's the name of the bill, the Growing Climate Solutions Act. The bill, which was introduced last week by Senators Mike Braun, Republican from Indiana, and Debbie Stabenow, our own Democrat here from Michigan, Lindsey Graham, Republican from South Carolina, and Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat from Rhode Island, would create a certification program at the U.S. Department of Agriculture for technical service providers to work with farmers as they implement practices to sequester carbon and sell the credits. The bill also calls for an advisory committee at USDA composed of farmers, government officials, and representatives from private markets to provide guidance on how Congress and USDA can reduce barriers to entry for carbon markets and resolve challenges faced by farmers. National Farmers Union President Rob Laurer presented testimony on the bill, emphasizing the role carbon credits can play in establishing financial, environmental sustainability for family farms and ranchers as they cope with both climate change and coronavirus pandemic. So good news is that moving forward, it's again just going to be another source for farmers to be able to maybe do some sequestering of carbon. And we know that hemp does a great job of that and being able to raise a few more financial funds for the farm. So, and of course, at the end of the show, we'll have a recipe. It's going to be garlicky, cheesy hemp seed spread. So we'll talk about that. Also, Nathan Clark. Now, is Nathan on? Dave, do you see him in the participants anywhere?
I do not.
Okay. If he comes on a little later, we'll have him talk a little bit. But so Senate Bill 580 and 582 moved through the House yesterday. This is Michigan. Now back to the Senate to its original committee. It appears on track for final passage before the legislature breaks. These are the bills that we need to have passed. Hey, there's Brad. These are the bills that we need to have passed for MDART to be able to submit the plan to USDA for approval. So everything seems to be going on that. And again, if Nathan comes on, we'll try to throw him in there for a little bit. He may be able to give us a little update. But with that being said, and that's kind of all the good news that we have going on right now. And again, they're still moving forward on trying to get the CPAP program available for farmers, hemp farmers. So we'll keep you informed as that moves along. So it is our pleasure today to have Lewis Hard and Adam Dietrich. The company is called ReBlocks Company. It's 100% recycled landfill category 1 through 7 plastic building material manufactured out of Aurora, Colorado. ReBlocks building materials are designed with interlocking grooves, kind of like a tongue and groove, that allow for an easy build with only use of a rubber mallet in any terrain, in any weather. ReBlocks building material requires zero skilled labor, zero water, and produces zero waste on site. It takes 12 man hours to fully construct a 220 square foot ReBlock structure, and half that time take it down with a traditional crowbar. ReBlocks are the perfect building material for every industry and for every purpose. ReBlocks is currently in research and development on a hemp composite prototype block that consists of 20% hemp stalk biomass. Based on the exciting results they have come up from their initial research, ReBlocks Company is determined to become a major outlet for all U.S. hemp stalks, both CBD and industrial genetics, all with the goal of providing farms additional revenue lines to strengthen the overall hemp industry and build confidence to the skeptics, all while reducing landfill capacity stress. And their slogan is, and a question for you is, what would you build? So Adam, we're a pleasure to have you on, and we're going to start with you and tell us a little bit more about you and the company.
Great. Well, thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate you having us on. So my name's Adam Dietrich with ReBlocks Company. My business partner, Lewis Hard. We're out of Colorado, and I've been working within industrial hemp now for almost the last 4 years. But just recently, I've really been able to implement the stalks into our formula. And so a little background about myself: I've been within finance for the last 15 years, as well as real estate. Started to get a very strong education within industrial hemp based on land development projects that I was working on up in the foothills, and adjudicating water rights for beneficial use for different land acquisitions. And so one thing that really just brought an attention to me is the understanding of being able to take a large land mass and create an ecosystem fully based on industrial hemp and the utilization of the full plant. And that's where Lewis and I, met. We began to work with the blocks that we have, which were originally, as we had stated there, 100%, landfill plastic. Now we're working into the incorporation of industrial hemp as well as CBD stalks. So we're really opening the door to farmers, immediately to begin creating this outlet for them, so that we can take in this inventory and really be able to create a market for it, create a price point for it, and start to, unleash a lot of different revenue lines where farmers can get a bit more confidence year to year that they don't have to continuously feel like they're taking a risk when planting. And so, we've always looked at, sell before you grow. And so this is something where with our building blocks, we really want to implement them into every industry. The, ease of use, the, build within any terrain and any weather is really something that can be a game changer, not just for the US, but for the entire world. You have a lot of natural resources globally that have just been diminished based on building and construction. And so we need to, show that there are many other ways of utilizing second life products and waste category products as long-term solutions for rebuilding of infrastructures. And that's, kind of where we are now is, creating the platform, really building the relationships with the farmers, and then, hopefully adopting new genetics that will meet the climate and elevation of Colorado to ensure that we can really pinpoint into high tensile strength. And that's something that is kind of next generation for us, but we want to be able to, build that relationship first with farmers and then show them kind of some options of other ways to grow and some different genetics that, we can benefit from partnerships globally. So, I'll pass it over to my business partner, Lewis, so he can give a little background about himself as well.
Dave, I think he's muted.
Lewis isn't.
I'm here.
Okay.
Hey, Lewis.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Excellent.
So like Adam said, I've been in the plastics business for 42 years. We started a profile extrusion company, and in I don't know, probably 10 years ago, we got into the recycling business to feed the manufacturing company, and any excess materials we had, we would sell to other manufacturers. So that's kind of how I got started in the plastics business, and the blocks is a project that I was working on before I decided to sell out, and decided to come back and complete this project and get it going.
Yeah.
Dave, or can one of you guys show some pictures of some of the buildings? I know we had them in an email somewhere. I don't know if they can.
Yeah. Are you set up, Adam? Do you want me to share that?
Yeah, my apologies, guys. No, I was not.
No, that's okay. I don't know if this is the right point.
All right, we got to take
Dave, if you have it, but I can give a little narration to it.
There we go. That'd be good.
Sure. And one thing that we've, had a great kind of momentum with was the Denver Stock Show. So it's the National Western Stock Show. It's held in January. So we had a booth there for 2020. It's a very agriculturally focused event. 700,000 people come through it each year. And so it really opened our eyes to the flexibility and versatility of these blocks, showing, uses of timber replacement, even through building blocks of fence posts. So looking at the way in which we have our intergrooved locking block, you can build into retaining walls, fencing, you would call them loafing sheds or birthing sheds. This is a video. If you want to go back to that, Dave, that's
You want that video? Yeah.
yeah, sure. So,
awesome
we're working currently in South America as well. And so we have engineers helping us to ensure that we're showing a lot of different ways that we can, show the versatility, but also strength. So this is just a fire test, relates very well to the hempcrete that we're also going to start focusing on too. So go right ahead if you want to.
All right, it's kind of loud.
So, the report on the flammability, the best thing about plastics is that they are not kind of an igniter of themselves. There's no real material in there to build a fire. So it might light, but it will self-extinguish itself. And then, fully, literally just cool without any dripping or melting of plastic. And so when we were looking into, incorporating stocks, that's one thing that we also wanted to ensure we, fit into was the type of characteristics that hempcrete and hemp walls create. And that's fire retardancy, insect retardancy or repellent, working away from different types of chemical introductions into the systems. And so the plastic blocks can then be further advanced when we're implementing the herd and the microfibers, because we're going to mill this with our prototypes down to almost a powder and really get this into a recipe that is going to be implemented for each block. So every single block will have the exact same ratios of materials, and we are still focusing on the 1 through 7 plastics. And so when we want to make an impact within a rural community, we're not only reducing the hemp stock, inventory that they're sitting on, but we also want to go into those local landfills and start to remove plastics from those smaller rural towns that have max capacity issues within those, trash heaps, and really start to create this double circular network where we are impacting regional areas in 2 different ways, but as well by bringing additional jobs. And that's something that's been a very big focus is, the recreation of, manufacturing in the U.S., supporting within a regional focus and footprint. And so that's something that works very well for us as well, because you have trash everywhere, and you also are going to have a lot of hemp stock everywhere. And so if we can regional hubs that take in landfill plastics as well as hemp stocks and print out in the front door a building block, we can then implement those in different areas to ensure that farmers are, taken care of without having to travel great distance to get their materials processed.
Adam?
So that's where we're basing us right now.
Adam, that fire test that you showed, that was a recycled plastic block?
Yeah.
Wow. Just so you know, we had the U.S. Hemp Building Association on last Thursday, and their Tommy Gibbons HemPitecture or hemp, but they did. Did you hear about the testing that they did? And
I didn't hear about their testing, but I'm familiar with their company.
So they did the fire test, a certification, fire test, and there's a scale of 0 to 40. 0 being it's not going to catch fire, 40 it's a pine tree, and it was 0.
Yeah. Oh, I did hear that. Yeah.
The hempcrete, so I thought that was really cool. So yeah, it's going to be awesome. What you were talking about the genetics, what have you done as far as getting the right genetics, and can you use the stalks from a cannabinoid grow, a CBD, CBG, that kind of thing?
Yeah, right now we can. That's the first thing that we were testing with because of just the availability of those stocks. CBD genetics, you're not going to get as much volume from each plant, but we are able to utilize that. As we move forward, we want to really into genetics that help us to increase strength. So, I created a partnership about 3 years ago with a company out of Nepal. And we are able to pinpoint at 8,300 feet elevation what genetics work well in Colorado that meet and are already being grown in Nepal in certain regions. And we've located that, or not located, but we've kind of discovered that higher tensile strength comes from a higher elevation grow.
Really?
That all cultivation at lower elevations isn't going to get tensile strength, but the higher you go, it has just been seen that it really is seeing a stronger outer bast fiber. And that's the fiber that we want to look at to be able to advance our building blocks, hopefully to the point where we're off grid and we are allowing these blocks to be conductors for our battery powers and storage.
Adam, I have a couple of questions for you. I'm looking at this. I know they're interlocking, but do you need adhesives as well or not?
No, it's the
Really?
tight fit of these blocks is quite amazing. You know, the crowbar is absolutely necessary to get them apart. We have two thicknesses of blocks. So we have a thinner block, which is about 1.5 inches thick. We've got a thicker block at 3 inches. That thicker block, once you hammer it into place, it is not coming apart without a crowbar. So there's no adhesives, no cement, no screws. And so with these blocks, perfect for just multi-use and versatility over time. So we were really getting a great feedback from farmers because they could see these blocks being used as windbreak walls for different, times of the year. So, you have a windbreak wall, or you have a birthing shed when you have a lot of cattle that are going to be born. And so you can take these blocks apart and you can rebuild into a structure that you need at that time. You just are able to really be quite functional within that. And so it correlates then to forestry, services. They're looking at these blocks. We have military interest, for military barrack build outs. Because look at, going into the middle of the desert, being able to find, a location where you can hammer up a barrack in a little time with only a mallet and take it down with a crowbar before anybody knows you're there. It's something that provides you with more security than the current barracks that are being built. It's got that thicker plastic wall. And so we had a bomb specialist speaking with us, and he felt like these would help with sonic wave mitigation. A big issue that military members have is if a bomb hits outside of a building, it's not the shrapnel always, it's the sonic wave that can crush your lungs. And so these wall systems can help to mitigate that type of wave coming through the wall. So all news to me, but these are the types of things that we really want to look at, because this also gives that confidence back to the farmer. We could locate some federal contracts that could just be annually renewed, and we know that we have that outlet moving forward for all stocks that we can gather. And so that's a massive focus that we want to take.
Speaking of wind, you mentioned wind. Obviously, here in Michigan, our concern is tornadoes. How do they perform under high wind?
Yeah, it's a great product because the weight of this building is quite heavy. You've got 220 square feet equals 5,500 pounds of plastic. So it's a very heavy building, but also between posts, we can put 6 feet to 10 feet. So in higher wind areas, we can reduce our wall spacing so that we've got 6 feet between support posts. Our ReBlocks would then be filling in those wall systems at the 6 feet gaps. When you're looking at areas that have less wind, you can really, lengthen out those wall systems to the 10 feet. But, we're still working with engineers on different states and the different climates and just meet needs for all permits and counties. But we just completed an engineering report for our 6,000 square foot barn. Can you pull up that 6,000 square foot red barn for me real quick?
Yep. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, can you do curves? Because you can make hockey rinks out of those. That'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Wall systems fit into just kind of a tongue and groove, or even into a channel on a wall. So if you were angling your channels a bit, you could really create an oval. And we're working into a lot of innovation where we're going to be changing designs and looking into, just not 90-degree angles all the time, for sure. Right now, we just finished our engineering report on this barn. It's a 6,000 square foot barn. It's fully built with the wall systems of our blocks. It's just a wonderful piece, because really what we do is create a barn that then holds all the equipment needed to produce more ReBlocks.
Oh, wow.
And really get these out across the globe, so that we can show a great example of taking in waste and producing building materials to really supplement natural, mined resources that are being used now. And so
Are
that's
you using
exciting
are you
opportunity.
using plastic for the roof, or using metal for the roof? What are you using for the roof on there?
Really in the future, we want to get into fully recycled. Right now, that's a tin roof on top. Matching climates and matching kind of topography and how different buildings are built out, we can have different roofing systems. But long term, we want to be able to extrude out sheets, same recipe of our blocks, but come in from big, almost particle board size, so that we can get up on the roof and really create a full roofing system all from recycled. And that'll really help in Colorado with hail damage. We just
Oh,
hail. And so, anything that can at least solidify and give a little more strength to some roofs, that can help to save a lot of money long term.
yeah.
But again, just utilizing more and more recycled plastic and industrial hemp.
How do the construction costs compare vis-a-vis other materials that are not like this? I mean, the traditional stuff, right?
Yeah, great question. No skilled labor required here. We have no cement needed. We have no foundation that's actually required to be poured. You can march these blocks into a very remote area and build out, just based on a rubber mallet need, no access to running water. So the cost is quite low. As well, there's no waste left behind. So, there's nothing that literally has to be created on site. Everything is built to then match the specs that are, looking to implement at that building site. But, everything is very precise and very calculated. So, there's building, projects in Denver that have literally been going on for 4 years. And it's just, I don't understand what is happening. And you have so many opportunities of creating buildings within a month. And so we really are seeing that these types of builds are very efficient, very effective, but hopefully can start to take over a bit of the traditional sense of construction, because, once we get all the reports done, these wall systems are really going to prove themselves to, compare to anything else out there now.
One more question.
Remind everyone that we do have the chat.
I'm sorry, Blaine, go ahead.
I was going to remind everybody that we do have the chat feature there. So if you have questions for Adam or Lois, please send them in. I do have one question, but go ahead, Mike. I'll come back to the question after you get yours.
Okay, it looks like it's sitting on some kind of concrete pad, and wouldn't it need to also be anchored to the pad? Otherwise, it's like, wind gets up underneath it can lift it right up, right?
This design actually has anchors into the ground, so it goes 6 feet deep into the earth, but it's only on the posts. So it's almost a post foundation, but doesn't require a full poured concrete pad. For this design, I think it's actually a bit of a stone path around the outside of the building.
Oh, okay.
But it does not require any type of poured cement foundation.
All right. All right, Dip, go ahead.
Question we have on here from John is, how do we purchase this product? The ReBlocks website does not have much information on that.
So it's a newer company. COVID's really put us in a bit of a situation where we were delayed quite a while. The Western Stock Show was our initial introduction, to North America. These blocks were utilized in South America for the last 8 years, tiny home builds. So for us, we've got supply to be able to provide our 100% plastic blocks. You can give us a call. You can jump on the website. You can also email us at reblocksinfo@gmail.com. And we put together different types of designs that are backyard projects, retaining walls, fencing, smaller projects now that we are looking to implement, to not require you to pull permits within your county until we really get the industrial hemp block tested fully, because we want to really implement this block as much as possible based on just the amazing abilities of it. But the introduction of this hemp block is going to be that much more, just fantastic for the entire country, that we're trying to kind of hold off with all of our engineering reports until we can get it all, figured out the new formulation. But we can build a lot of different opportunities based on the engineering report that we just finished.
Now, one of the things that
Anything else that you had for that? I apologize to be talking this entire time.
we're a big manufacturing state, as you know, and we're looking for various ways for the hemp farmers to use their products. I mean, we're talking about creating a hemp textile industry in the state. something like this would be great as well. Is this something that we could do it, manufacture in Michigan?
100%. Yeah. And this is Lewis and I's dream of being able to kind of perfect our model here in the Colorado state, and then really open that up to every state within the U.S. because our one hub won't be able to take in all of the material. I think one hub per state would also be a fabulous outlet based on the different genetics and the different styles of hemp that are being produced. And so, maybe we're not always producing the exact same product at each location, but a similar type of, refinery hub that really takes in materials, breaks it down into those 5 raws, and just allows farmers with that much more access to high value add materials.
Huh.
I'm sure Lewis probably has this information, but he's been in plastics so long. But we have the ability here. We've been working with the plastics industry a little bit here to take that stock and to grind it into that very, very, very fine powder that you need when you're making these things. So, if you need that technology or help, we can make that connection work for you. But sounds like you probably already got that with the way you're making these blocks already. But we have that ability here. We've been working with them and moving forward in the plastic stuff. So.
Absolutely. Well, we've learned it's all about collaboratives. Lewis and I have been sitting, really working with different investment groups here for the last year, and trying to keep this nucleus together as we're moving down this road. But it's really opened up our eyes to knowing that it is a massive effort that's always needed. And, for us, Lewis is an absolute master in taking machinery and maximizing production from that machinery. But that doesn't say that somebody else is also that same type of mastermind. And so we are open to all types of collaborative opportunities and really trying to pinpoint the best and most efficient way of eating these types of building materials from, what is now considered waste.
As you expand, are you going to be looking at like a franchise model, or are you going to just control the whole thing yourself and go in and set something up and hire the people, or how are you going to do that?
I think there's definitely a licensing opportunity here, in franchise where we just want to provide everyone with the best opportunity and the best platform for quality and transparency from, ground floor up. It would be hard to take control of every location. That just doesn't seem like something necessary. I think each state really should be in control of their destiny and have an ability to get information and IP like this and implement it, but control it in a sense that makes the best and most efficient for their state. And so we would just want to provide this as a model.
So Adam, what kind of cost per square foot did you throw that out? I missed that.
Yeah, did not yet. So we are looking at about $22 a square foot for our thin block, $27 a square foot for our thicker block, but it's in regards to wall systems. So we wouldn't calculate that on the base of the kind of foundation square footage. We would go off of wall space square footage.
How much was the thick?
What's that?
The thick block was how much?
27.
27, okay.
Square foot, yeah. So when you're looking at like a pole barn build, we are fitting very close within that price point for them. And now what we need to confirm, we have an R value. That's what we're working on now. There's estimates there for us, which are wonderful, but we need to get that confirmed. And so that will then further legitimize us as being a perfect price point where we can set up a building cheaper than or right at the same cost as a pole build, but we're already rated at an R25+. And so then that we can ensure we don't have to do any further insulation of our wall.
Interesting.
Now, what about mechanicals, electrical, plumbing, all that kind of stuff when you start working with this?
Yep. So the thicker blocks, they're the ones that are utilized in South America for tiny home builds. You can drill conduit right through the middle of those blocks, where you can then wire up from the ground up your electrical as well as your plumbing. So it's a really nice way actually to encapsulate your wiring into a plastic hole. So it's a really safe way to do so.
Yeah, and then it probably helps then with the any kind of rodent issues and such disturbing those systems. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Pests, insects.
Yeah.
They're not going to want to eat it.
Oh no. Yeah. I mean, rats and different animals eat everything, but I think
Yeah.
once you start chewing on plastic, there's really no benefit there. So, they'll start to look other places. One thing that's really come up for us during COVID is you have a lot of advertising for tiny home or backyard style getaway spaces.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing on Amazon, there are so many different types of styles of these 100 to 200 square foot build outs, where it's either an office or an in-law suite or an outdoor living room. These
shed. Yeah.
yeah, for us to get away anything. I mean, Lewis would always sell it as a she shed or something.
Yeah.
Or, the style. But this is another way that we want to focus, because we have so many different opportunities ahead of us. But the situation that everybody is in the economy in this world, is that they're stuck at home. So if we can provide even an escape for your backyard, these blocks can be built by yourself. Lewis and I put the building that's behind me, and it's just something that you get your foundation post set, and you're building within, to fill those with the wall systems, and it's a very efficient, quick build, and doesn't require an actual real foundation. If you keep it under your permit or footages, then you don't have to pull any permits. So it's a nice project to have, and then you have further down the road just the continued versatility of blocks for any other type of build you might need.
Is there any building code stuff that you're running into issues with that or not?
That's just going to take some time.
Yeah. It's a different type of building material that you don't see right now. But what we can do is utilize our experience within South America for the last 8 years, utilize our engineering reports, and then we are within a collaborative group out of Greeley, Colorado, that's really working together to ensure Colorado can create a base for industrial hemp. And they are open to allowing building materials into their city with the understanding that it might not fit current code, but it fits within the their educated sense of hemp. It's not this negative, just understanding it's weed going into a house. This is, a very educated town that has taken a very positive approach to industrial hemp and want to welcome it as a building material. So we're working closely with them, and hopefully we'll be able to put up a couple buildings that can be tested throughout the time and really get us then to be implemented in a lot of other cities and states.
Getting back to your military barracks, one of the questions I would be curious about is if you tested it to see if it's, shall we say, bullet resistant. Have you done that kind of testing?
Not yet, not a gun holder, but we have a lot of guys that want to shoot them up. Western Stock Show, there were many offers for people to shoot these things up.
Yes, especially in Colorado, right?
Yeah. So we're working on it. That COVID's just put another, kind of hitch in that wagon as well. But that is the next project that we're getting into, because we really do feel that these can be something that provides a lot of additional support. And Lewis has the ability of creating these blocks even thicker. So it's something where we can continuously evolve into a stronger product to fit the need of that industry or that organization. So
yeah, what I was thinking is if you get the military behind it, you would get into economies of scale a lot faster, and that would reduce the cost and make it more available for everybody else. And
100%.
That would probably be one of their criteria is how it's going to be in a battlefield condition. How well does it withstand it, right?
Yep.
So.
Yeah, no, I look forward to that. I mean, you got a lot of offers, and then there was a guy who had his own gun range, and so he wanted to bring a bunch of blocks, but we only have so many blocks right now, so we're not, just sending them out to everybody to shoot them up, but we hope very soon that we can get that done so that, we can start on that process.
How hard is it to source the recycled plastic materials?
Well, basically, we'd be getting them from trash companies, and not just trash companies, though, from other manufacturers or even end users. Like you look at a bakery, they get a lot of their icing in 5-gallon buckets. All that is recycled, is able to be recycled into blocks.
Well, a lot of cities have abandoned their recycling because it was they were losing money on it, and so this could really be an option for them to at least break even, right? If not make money.
Right. I mean, even if you look at the electronic recyclers, a lot of materials that they have from recycling computers and TVs and things like that, or your polycarbonates, ABSs, that is really, really hard for them to get rid of. So there's a lot of material out there that's basically going to waste right now.
Well, yeah, the landfills are just chock-a-block full of plastics, which would have last for hundreds of years, right? So if we could clean that out, that'd be a big
right.
problem. So
right.
So is this where you have to melt the recycled plastic down, or do you chop it up and mix it to make it?
So on the recycling, when we get a bale in from a trash company or whoever we're getting it from, basically you run it through a bale breaker that breaks it all up. You run it through a big shredder that might grind it up in 2-3 inch pieces. Then you run it through a smaller grinder that will grind it up into about 3/8 of an inch. From there, it goes to a wash line to take off any paper labels that might be there, get rid of any liquids that might be in there, like a milk jug. Sometimes there's still milk in there that, so it washes it almost like a washing machine. It usually takes about 20 minutes from the time it enters to the time it exits. And then from there, it goes into a dryer to dry the plastic. And from there, it goes into a pelletizer that basically turns it back into a pellet to be utilized for manufacturing.
Okay, so you would mix in the hemp. You would have a similar line for the hemp to get that down to a pellet size, and then you would just have some kind of blend.
Yes.
Okay.
So the two materials, after the plastic gets cleaned and washed and dried, then it would go into another, call it mixer, that would blend in the hemp at that point with the recycled plastic.
Okay. What is the ratio? Is it primarily plastic and some hemp, or what?
Yeah, right now we're still working on that. We've had it as high as 50%, but we had some issues, so it's just fine-tuning that process. It's kind of hard to tell you where it's going to wind up at. I think it's also going to depend on, what products we're making, because the thicker, the heavier the product, the more hemp we're going to be able to put in there, where if it's a lightweight type product, we might not be able to add as much.
What's the lifespan of this block? We're looking 10 years, 20 years?
Oh, it's going to be a lot longer than that. To be honest with you, I couldn't tell you. I mean, Adam, I know you read a lot of stuff where, this stuff will last for hundreds of years, but we don't actually have any reports on that right now, but we will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of piecing together info from two different, products. So you've got plastics, man-made, that stuff will last forever. Incorporating
it'll outlive us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're looking into, is it incorporating and completely encapsulating that hemp to ensure that it's not really getting any oxygen or any type of effect. And so, having the two mixes, it's going to be just something that we're looking at further down the road to see real time. But, with hempcrete still in the Great Wall of China, or not in the Great Wall of China, but the Colosseum, in a bridge within France, there's great history there. So trying to combine those two into one, additional testing.
Because it seems like you're going to lose some of the good qualities of hempcrete with the water barrier, the constant humidity and such. How does that handled with the plastic block? It's going to hold any moisture in the structure, right? You're not going to have that. It doesn't have that porous action going that you do with.
Yeah, completely different type of material, different product. So, types of walls, you're not going to get the benefits through. These are full-on plastic walls. They are going to block it out. So we are looking at trying to find that in between, because we have formulations, that we are working with, on the hemp lime side as well, and trying to find ways in which we can use both products to complete a build without one taking away the abilities of the other. And so ensuring that our plastic wall systems aren't backing up into a hempcrete, drywall piece, because then that just makes no sense, and there's no pass through. And so really working to ensure it's a feasible opportunity to still give the benefit of hempcrete while utilizing the plastic in efficient ways.
Yeah, because your plastic, you have this really defined structure now to make these blocks. That out of hemp and lime combination is a bigger challenge, isn't it? To come up with a pre-built block.
Well, yeah, we're looking at ways in which we can cure a hempcrete block within an hour, get it to set and get it much quicker to be a building piece. The issue with the drying process of hempcrete is it's just a longer time required. But there are ways in which we can do some additives that can help to chemically create the reaction a lot quicker of calcinization than what it traditionally is doing. And then hopefully we can, utilize our designs to then have two different options, provide two different materials, really.
Maybe interchange within a building. You have alternate blocks. Okay, in this panel, so it's almost like a window for a vapor barrier. Yeah.
That's a great idea. Yeah, and there's so many ways of looking. I'm just walking around town and just looking at different architecture and seeing how Crete can really be utilized in so many ways to, just as you said, like just implement it in a structure or in a kind of design that allows for the abilities and what it was made for to really happen, but also provide a much stronger structural wall with implementing, some different raw materials and different types of blocks. So that's a great idea.
That was really exciting.
A couple of questions came in from one another from John. Are the blocks rated for ground contact and below grade foundation?
Louis, you want to hit that?
I didn't hear the first part of it.
Are the blocks rated for ground contact and below grade foundation?
Yes.
Okay. And another question from Gene Allen is, what is the cost of a processing plant to process thin and thick blocks? And how thick are the thin and the thick blocks? I think you gave us that figure, but what are those figures again for how thick and thin they are? 3 inch and 7?
It's about 1.5 inch thick on the thinner block. Okay. 3 inches thick on the thicker block. Okay. So that's the thickness, but then we've got the length. We've got a 10-inch block and we've got a 20-inch block. Allows us to just ensure that we can offset them, and so there's seams that are always offset, just like building bricks. And the processing plant, so the cost of a processing plant, I mean, you're looking at
just for equipment alone, it's about $2 million just for equipment alone.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's bringing in the extrusion equipment as well. So we want to be able to be start to finish, taking in trash and the finished product at the end. So, looking at the recycling equipment, looking at the processing and refinement equipment of the hemp, but having that all, to one location.
Probably more in the ballpark of $4 or $5 million for out the door, right? For everything, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, because depending on where you're living, cost of buildings vary quite a bit.
Right. And then, looking just at processing equipment across the board here, you've got price points that are just scattered everywhere. And so it's really finding the right equipment that you can utilize to get the spec that you need for the hemp. And that doesn't always require a $14 million decorticator out of Europe, so ensuring that you know what you need and not overbuying, that can, just keep your overhead down.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but this kind of reminds me of Legos for big boys and girls is what this kind of reminds me of.
Well, that's what we tell everybody. It's just like putting together Lego blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in the availability of any age, I've got 5-year-olds that can put these things together. So, you have an open opportunity to make a big impact on third world countries where you are right now seeing Fox blocks being used, which are styrofoam blocks that are then filled with cement on site to kind of build out wall systems. These types of blocks, there's no cement needed. So really getting these into third world, you don't need a skilled labor force. You have people from the community coming together and building buildings that were once trash, with rubber mallets. And so it just opens up so many different avenues where we can get in FEMA or the Red Cross and really try to implement it in so many different ways. But the ease of use is really something that will, across the board, hopefully open it up for acceptance within the construction world.
Let me ask the investor question. Do you have competitors?
No, not at this time.
Not within the combo that we're doing now.
Really?
Yeah.
It's very cool.
So how long before you think you'll have, I'm going to say commercially ready, but I mean where people can contact you and say, I want a 20 by 20 building or a 40 by 60 building? How long before you think you'll have that process up and running?
Well, we can provide that right now with just the plastic, but with the hemp, it'll probably be after the first of the year.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing one of your buildings in Lansing, Michigan on January, help me out, Blaine, 21st, 22nd and 23rd. Setup is on the 21st. That's what I'm thinking. I'll come with my mallet. I'll help you guys put up your booth at the Midwest IHemp Expo. How's that sound?
I'll bring the crowbar. That's all we need.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, and we were thinking perfect thing, ice fishing cabins. These things you build it on a lake. So anybody who's an ice fisherman, let us know.
Well, that's what I was thinking, hockey rinks, because we put up and take down these hockey rinks every year, and that'd be a kicker board. Awesome.
Well,
probably have some good action off that.
Yeah, our melting point's 600 plus, so you can still have your fire on the inside when you're fishing on the lake. I mean, this is something that's so cool. With all activities.
Well, I can also see these as, because I'm a little more fisher hunter kind of thing, a little hunter. So I can see these as, blinds, playhouses for kids, all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Lewis also owns a company. You want to give him a rundown, Lewis, just to let him know how perfectly this adds up and works together.
What Adam's talking about is I have a business that builds archery simulators called Techno Hunt.
Oh yeah.
So we supply those to indoor archery ranges across the country, and they're basically hunting simulators, but we have a few games for it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so where it's got the screen, you shoot the arrow into the screen and it records. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and so even looking at virtual build outs where the blocks are the kind of the recreation unit, and then you have the simulation on the inside, and trying to build out these different types of opportunities, hunting blinds. I mean, it's all just fantastic, because really anything where we can work away from timber, that's a big one. Timber rot and just the tediousness of having to go out and replace different items, mostly for landowners. You put these blocks in the ground and get it past your frost line, you're good. So there's just so many great ways of utilizing them for a very long-term application.
And you're getting rid of a waste product that's without it being dumped in the ocean. It's beautiful.
Yeah, great point. Thank you for mentioning ocean. We're also looking at ocean plastics. That's something that we also want to incorporate into this. So we're not trying to just do landfill. We really want to open this up to all plastic waste.
Yeah, lot of opportunity for input. Yeah.
A little over 5 minutes left, guys. So why don't we give them a chance to do their shameless plug and provide the website address, or however folks can reach out
to
you?
I threw your phone numbers in the chat, but Jeremy or Adam, if you could toss your web address and such in the chat, we can capture that for everybody.
Yep. And then we'll just put on there the email too. So it's just www.reblocksco.com, and then our email is reblocksinfo@gmail.com.
Beautiful. Yeah. And Blaine, I think you have a recipe for us, don't you?
I do. Any last questions before I jump into that from our folks out in the attendance? All right. Again, I want to give a plug for next week's show. We're going to have Sarah Hinckley on with Barn Owl Drone Services. Got a lot of good services out there that they have. But one of the fun things we're going to talk about is being able to use the drone in order to be able to identify male plants out in your female plants to be able to pull them out before it ruins your whole crop. So going to be an exciting show next week, that is for sure. So this week, what was that? Gotta get the hat on. Gotta get the hat on. There we go. The chef hat. There we go.
Gotta have a little comedy, right? You know.
You gotta have comedy relief somewhere along the line. That's right. So, so what I made this week. This is off of Food Revolution Network. I always like to say where I borrow these things from. Ocean Robbins is the person's name that has these. This is a garlicky cheese hemp seed spread. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different little ingredients. It's a 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast, and we'll have that on the site. But this is what I used there. See that? And a 1/2 cup of hemp seeds. 2.5 teaspoons of organic miso, if I say that right, but this is what I never got it before. I'm learning all kinds of new things with doing all these recipes.
Nice.
It's kind of a chickpea. You can also use chickpeas for this as well. A little bit of garlic powder. Now I used garlic salt last night, so this is a little bit too heavy on the garlic side. And then 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. And you just mix this all together in a food processor or a blender. Or I have the Ninja is what I use.
We won't talk about why.
Yeah. And so,
I heard Becky.
and so that's what it looks like. I'm going to do a little more experimenting with it. It isn't as spreadable as some of the cheesy spreads are, but it certainly is. I mean, it's not that hard and a very good taste. So inexpensive cost for a very quick. It takes about 10 minutes to make. And I always like cheese, simple things to do. So